I'm going to sign off now, but I'm going to just enjoy watching. I'm going to ask Matt from 100 Words to take the hot seat and guide us along in this final conversation, and really continue to encourage you all to participate, to share in the chat box, and also a time to reflect on what's been, for some of us, quite a long day, and for some of us, we're still fresh and just starting our first session. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Glenn, and appreciate the session today, and appreciate your work throughout the week. I can speak for some of us in saying, yeah, well done on a great week full of sessions, and today, I'm sure it's been a mountain of work behind the scenes. So really appreciate your commitment to the sector. All right, and now thank you also. As we just heard, we've got 4 exciting guests today. Look, it is going to be an open forum, so we'll definitely have some time for everyone to contribute and also share their learnings from the day, from the week as well. So we'll obviously spend a bit of time hearing from those 4 speakers today, but yeah, definitely, as you've been doing, use the chat. Raise your hands if you've got questions, post some questions, but we'll also, you know, have some time to keep the mic open. So, so really what we wanted to do today is, yeah, if we can go around really from a first perspective, just to give a bit of an overview of who these guys are and a bit more about their projects. So we've got, how about Matt Boyce? Are you happy to go first, Matt?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Love to. So cheers for that, Matty. Matt Boyce, we're the Human Connection Project. Gents, we're based up in Brizzy, Australia. We're slowly getting ourselves a national footprint, but the whole concept of what we do is 5 years ago, I lost my best mate. And I was super disconnected, heavily suicidal, attempted suicide a couple of times myself, and just found that the problem I was struggling with was the absence of human connection. So we just do a bunch of initiatives now, getting in particular, obviously, men together. We've got walk and talks. I know there's a couple of men's walk groups in the bunch, which is awesome. So we run a walk and talk. We do a bunch of virtual catch-ups as well. Obviously, COVID's kind of taken the rug out from underneath us. And then we've got a few online courses that we're putting some blokes through at the moment as well. But yeah, that's pretty much us in a nutshell. I mean, we could break it down a lot more, but I'll let everyone else intro as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to coming back to you and hearing more about that, Matt. So hang with us. How about Sam Parker? Are you happy to share a bit of your story?
Hey, Matt. How are you, mate? Nice to meet you. G'day, everyone.
Good.
Graduated as a chiro sort of around, what was that, 2013, and found this whole world of personal development. And then once you sort of find that, and you kind of shove it down everyone else's throat after a bit. And I found women were quite open to that, men not so much. And then was looking for a way to make some change. And then I had a guy, I was thinking about this when I got the questions the other day. I've forgotten about this story, but I remember this big, burly, muscly dude was seeing me in the practice. And one day came in all cowered over and like completely different person. I was like, what's going on? He had a black eye and all these sorts of things. And there'd been an incident at home, there'd been an argument, and something got thrown in his direction and it hit him. But like the way that had changed that guy in the space of a week, the amount of maybe guilt and shame that he was carrying at the time, and the stats around, like, there's, you know, other organizations that deal with the other side of that, with the female side of things. I was like, guys really have nowhere to turn to sometimes. Hey, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Work with a lot of women, and there's a lot of misunderstandings around how men do life sometimes. And I was like, there seems to be nothing for us guys, just sort of connect and be ourselves as much. My lowest point was about 12 to 18 months into being a dad, and felt completely overwhelmed, tired and frustrated. And, you know, the question popped into my head, how would my son's life look if I wasn't here? And I shit my pants, but it gave me the context of all the stats that I'd been spruiking and known. It actually gave some context to it. And then you look around, and I think some of the upsides of COVID is that there's no more bullshit. everyone's in the same boat. We've all got some sort of stress. We've got some sort of stuff going on, and that's okay. But we can still have a laugh. We can still get together. We can still catch up. So in amongst all that, I started Bros, Burgers and Brews, which is now Grab Life by the Balls. And we would like to champion mateship for its positive and proactive benefits to men's mental health. And that's what we do. We just hang out, have a good old chinwag. You talk about COVID, talk about the weather, talk about the shit that's going on in your life, talk about the footy, just come along and be yourself. So yeah, that's us. Thanks, Matt.
Great. Thanks, Sam. And I've got to say, when I heard about your organisation, I said, that is a great, name. That is one of the best names in the sector. So, yeah, well done. But speaking of another good name, Dylan from Momentum Lifestyle. And I know you've been busy in COVID. I've seen a lot of your sort of work that you've been doing in webinars and podcasts and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, maybe tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So my personal journey kind of, I guess, begun around 2015 when I personally went through, a really bad breakup and just didn't have the tools to understand my own emotions, what I was feeling, and then also how to heal and go through that grieving process of the relationship and coming out at the other side, sorry. And so mine kind of started there through my own personal experience with depression and anxiety, and then, getting myself back on track with my mental well-being and implementing some practices and some tools, seeing a psychologist, and then from there, I kind of, as Sam said, kind of got stuck into the personal development world, became a health coach, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And then we came together, me and one of my mates, Blake. So there's three of us within Momentum. Me and Blake jumped on a phone call and said, mate, we need to do something in the men's space. I was already doing some work with my dad here in Melbourne with leaders and their well-being. So combining leadership and well-being and rolling out events for them. So me and Blake, and then a third one, Genoa, we jumped on a call, would have like about 10 months ago, not even 8 months ago, and said we need to do some events, we need to do something in this space. And then a month later, we held our first event in Sydney, the Building Blocks to a Better Man. So our whole thing, I guess, or our whole idea is to kind of champion and challenge men to work on themselves and also to take care of themselves. So, we've got our 5 pillars, masculinity, meditation, mindset, motivation, and muscle. And we work kind of everything underneath those pillars. So we provide, the support network side that men desperately need, as well as that performance side, or that, improvement, personal development side as well, and try to make it as appealing for men. So I know, and as Sam said, men, there's that hesitation that, there must be something wrong with me, and there isn't something wrong with me, so I'm not going to do the work. So we try to make that as attractive as possible, and for every man.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's becoming more common, isn't it? That area, it's more the coaching area and personal development and improvement. It's not just about, when you're having issues or
Yep.
when you're, having problems. So we'll come back to that. So the last of our special guests today is Kevin and Bailey from Maroubra Movement. G'day, guys.
Hey, how are you? So
good.
I'm Bailey. Basically, my story is I've grown up in the eastern suburbs in Sydney. Pretty regular childhood sort of thing. Growing up, I love my footy, love my sport, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, suffered from mental health problems all through my teens up until the beginning of last year, where I finally reached out to get professional help. And I'm very grateful that I did. There's been lots of youth suicides, particularly in youths in the eastern suburbs in Sydney. And I just thought, through my own experiences and being young, I'm only 20 years old still, that I could put something together that is relatable for people and be able to connect people and make them feel empowered to speak up. So I was away on holidays last year, traveling around Europe and the UK for 6 months, and I came up with the concept of Maroubra movement, whereby we'd run seminars around critical topics to do with mental health and provide people with a connection to resources as well. So basically it's just about creating that supportive environment and making people feel like they can reach out to get help and they don't have to sort of suffer alone. And it does happen to everyday people like myself. So I reached out to Kev, who's on my right here, last year. Kev's an Are You OK ambassador, amongst the many other hats that he has in the area in the mental health sector. And he does a great job. So I reached out to Kevin. We've put this project together, and so far it's going pretty well. So it's only fresh, but we're just trying to grow it for now.
And yes, so I'm Kevin, so I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'm a proud bachelor man from Harvey Bay, Fraser Island, so it's probably about 3 hours north of you, Matt. And basically, I work for New South Wales Health as a health outreach worker. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And as Bailey mentioned, we've had, in the last 2 years, we've lost about 16 young people to suicide, male and female, black and white, from all walks of life. So I myself have my own story, going through playing footy and so forth, the expectations, the pressure and so forth that you get from family and friends with playing due to injury. And then due to loss of my mother, and we didn't have the best relationship growing up, I hit rock bottom there. And that's when I went through suicidal thoughts and depression myself. And then it wasn't until I actually went through and got professional help where I actually learnt more about the triggers and how to help myself when I'm in the darkest times. And then it wasn't until that time that I realised and did a bit more education that, 75% of people who lost their life last year were males, but Aboriginal males are 2 times more likely to lose their life to suicide. So it sort of opened up a spot in my brain that thought, I've got to speak up. I'm not a professional. I'm not a person that's out there making millions of dollars, but I'm an everyday Australian, and I want to try and do the best I can for the people around me. So I was fortunate enough to come in contact with Sam Webb, who's from Livin, and meet a good friend of mine now, Dan Price, who's an ambassador for Livin, Are You OK, and shares his journey to wellness. So it was through that relationship where I had the connection with Brendan Maher, who's the CEO of Movember now, who was at Are You OK at the time, and been with Are You OK, part of their ambassadors for a fair while now, over a year or so. And then it was from that, getting involved there, that I'm now part of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Group. And it was, I was on a convoy last year with Are You OK. They did 10 weeks out from Are You OK Day, anti-clockwise around Australia, 3 cars doing a convoy. And I was fortunate enough to join them in Brisbane and go from Brisbane to WA, spent 3.5 weeks on the road. And that was a massive eye-opener for myself, because I'm talking about what's happening in my local area all the time and dealing with people in my area. But to go into a community where it's an hour and a half that way on the highway, an hour and a half that way on the highway to go see a GP, you've got to pay to see this GP, and this community is losing, 9-year-olds to 16-year-olds to suicide, male or female, in these little communities. So it was a massive eye-opener, but it was a great opportunity. And I guess since Bailey reached out, it's been going really good. We started up in January this year with Maroubra Movement, and to be honest with you, it's something that's we've had 2 seminars before COVID hit, and at each seminar we had over 100 people attend, and it's been pretty good. We had the first one was around alcohol and drugs, drug and AOD, sorry, and we had the second one was around lived experience around mental health, suicide awareness. And basically it was, it's so far been so good, and we've had to adapt to a different sort of platform using online. So if you are on social media, there's a few videos that we've been able to put up where we may look like idiots, but if we're able to make someone laugh, and if they're feeling down, if we're able to do something, then that's what we've done. So for someone like myself who's covered in tats, dark skin and got a beard, don't look like exactly the friendliest person, but when you watch them videos, I tell you, if it doesn't make you laugh, I don't know if you're human. But yeah, so that's what we're moving on at the moment, and it's something that it's needed everywhere. But if people look at Maroubra and they have their own sort of thoughts and ideas about it, but if we're able to get that reduce the stigma around mental health and the surroundings of it by doing something to bring people together from all walks of life, I think that's the biggest thing that we're trying to achieve. So anyway, we rambled on a little bit, but that's who we are. Thank you.
No, it's fantastic. It's great to hear the story there, and yeah, we'll definitely come back to that. I think one of the things that has become clear during even just this first few minutes, and also throughout some of the other sessions, is it's great to see so many different organizations in different stages of their sort of journey and maturity. So yeah, there's obviously some quite new ones, like Maroubra movement, but also, there's some people here, and even in the last session, that have been doing this for many, many years. So it's great to be able to, and even use this session to be able to share some of those experiences, because I myself have been in working for charities and not-for-profits for about 20 odd years. And we're often notorious for not sharing information and not helping each other, even though we're all, well-meaning. It's often a bit of a gap. So I think Glenn mentioned that earlier around that knowledge sharing and knowledge base. And I'm hoping to get the four speakers today to be able to share some of what have you learnt through the journey, and particular for newer people, even myself with 100 Words Mate to Mate. We're reasonably young from a men's health. We're only sort of a year or two old, just incorporated late last year. And we're in a similar sort of infancy, I suppose, compared to a lot of the larger organizations. So I'm keen to hear from the guys and get some tips around what have you learnt throughout your journey that maybe could help some of the other people on the call. So now, Dylan, do you mind if I start with you? Because I've also got a question. Someone's asked, Dylan, can you please repeat those 5 M's again? Someone's getting their note there ready to go. So I'll throw to you, Dylan, about what you've learned, as well as the 5 M's.
Yeah. The 5 M's, I'll start there. Masculinity, mindset, meditation, motivation, and muscle. They're the 5 pillars that we see as super important. Yep. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, what I've learned. Wow, that's a massive question, because there is so much to learn. I think once you kind of delve down the rabbit hole, there's so much that you're continually learning. I mean, I'll never stop learning more and more about myself, my journey, but also what other people are going through and how to best support them, and the best practices to support them. I think the big part for us at Momentum is kind of, and what we're working through at the moment, is that compassion piece with self. And I think it's really imperative right now. I saw something today, and it was like, we're going through a pandemic and a historical revolution at the same time right now. Be kind to yourself. And it really resonated with me, because I know the last 3, 4, 5 days, especially, I've been just struggling massively with my mental well-being, and just, you wake up, you turn any form of social media on, you turn the TV on, whatever it is, and it's just, there's not a lot of great stuff out there right now, and it can be super, super heavy for a lot of people, as I'm finding it. So that compassion piece for self with what you're going through, what you're experiencing, is really important, because we hear it quite often that you're not the only one going through it, and there's support out there, and that's what we're all here to do, is to provide support. But that compassion for self in regards to, it's a human response. What you're going through, depression, anxiety, these are human responses to incredible stresses in your life. And so it's not, it's not weak, it's not unmasculine, it's not something that you should be ashamed of and bury deep and not worry about. It is a very human response to have these feelings, to have these thoughts, these emotions going on inside of you. And so being able to be compassionate with yourself and what you're going through, and saying, hey, it's totally okay if I don't feel 100% today. It's totally okay if I can't show up in my business as who I need to be. And then the next step is, what are the tools that you can put in place? Where are the resources? What are the what are the support, the people in my life that can support me through these tough times. So yeah, that very, very quickly, that is, you know, the biggest takeaway, the self-compassion. You know, we're all going through a lot. Everyone's battling their own stuff, and you are no different.
Great. No, I totally agree. Thanks, Dylan. Now, Sam, do you want to go next?
Sure, why not? Thanks, Matt.
So, yeah, what have you learned through your journey with Grab Life by the Balls?
Oh, it's been a pretty epic journey. I think I was trying to see if I could tie it all together. So I suppose I'll just keep it on the mateship bandwagon. I think what we've noticed, like I wanted to make some change in this space when I first started out, and it doesn't look like what I thought I was going to do. But I think one of the key things is that sometimes, and it's a bit funny, because the less you focus on change in the group that we create, the more change actually happens. Although where the basis of what we're doing is around men's mental health stats, in particular situational distress and social isolation, those kind of risk factors, and hence why mateship is so important. By just getting guys together and holding a space for them, it's really good for them, and you don't actually have to do too much. I think we're all doing the best with what we've got, and we're all at different spots along the journey. Sometimes at uphill, sometimes it's downhill, sometimes it's in a pothole, wherever it is. But we've all got if you're turning up, you know, that's like the 90% of everything. And then the organisation has grown just on mateship as well. One of my best mates, Timmy, just happens to be pretty good in consulting for not-for-profits, and has a whole thing around that in the Indigenous communities of Australia. And he sort of jumped on board as my right-hand man and set up all the not-for-profit at the time, a charity as of April this year. So that was pretty cool. He also knew some other people who knew a few things, and we just had, you know, coffee chats with a psychologist who's up in Noosa. She's on our board of directors as well, and we just happened to have a finance guy that used to work for one of the major gyms who has an office on the Sunshine Coast. So we kind of just landed with the right people there, and then it's grown by having people just reach out to us. So we've got a whole bunch of people that have had the balls, if you like, to reach out and want to be involved. And that's how, and they seem to be really nice people. We haven't really advertised or anything, but that connection has got them, that we're putting out on social media, and whatever the vibe is that we're attracting, had to get the castle in there. They seem to be the right people. Like, I think guys want to help themselves. Guys have some good resources. And if we can create a space to do that, that's awesome. Challenges have been being busy. I made myself really busy. So my challenge has also been asking for help or asking for support, and delegation. And I think a lot of us in all this, with all the work that we do from all the organisations and the people here, I think that's one of the challenging aspects. Sometimes we don't ask for help ourselves, whether that is mentally or physically for our own emotional well-being, or whether that's the busyness of getting these things done that are usually part of a whole other lot of roles and responsibilities that we wear. So I think I've been learning to delegate and to let go a little bit, and then trust other guys to step up in that space. So yeah, it all comes back to creating a good vibe with the people you connect with.
Yeah, I really like that point around getting the right people on the board. You know, that is critical, and getting the right volunteers and you know, getting them to help you. I think there are a lot of people in this sector who quite commonly try to do everything for everyone, and you know, because they're so well-meaning. So I think that's a really good takeaway, Sam. Thank you.
Sorry, Matt, with that, are there any tips, Sam, that you can have to everyone as to how you then, what you learned from that, or how you did that?
Which part?
The ones that you got. So delegating, you know, what are some tips to, as you said, you know, you're a lot of people are coming up through where you've gone through, and they're going to come up to have those challenges. What are some tips that you can give them to?
It's start a conversation. Particularly if you're involved in an organisation, you don't realise how much people support and want to be involved. You know, if you use social media as an example, I was having a coffee just over here yesterday, and this guy came up and, you're great, well, fly the balls. Yeah. I've been following your page for 18 months. Like, I didn't know who this guy was. I hadn't seen him like any posts or anything like that. Didn't know he was there. There's people there watching and love what you do and want to help out. So I think it's up to us to then lead the way by being vulnerable and asking, making sure that we look after ourselves and realize, like, if we're charities or not-for-profits, or we're doing cool stuff, for everyone's doing amazing stuff in this space, that people want to be involved, people want to help, and to ask for it. I think, we've got to lead the way at a different level by going first and going, hey, I need a hand here. I can't do it all myself, and let's go. And then it's amazing how the right people start to pop up. Like, even just, easy to do a Facebook ad. Like, we've got a great social media and website lady, and she's awesome. That was just through some just putting a volunteer ad out there. You can ask for this stuff in this space. Don't forget to ask. We're giving so much. Don't forget to ask.
I was going to say, and Matt, that's pretty much a theme that's happened for the last two other thingos, which is that collaborating was one that came from the last one, and then the other one was that, as guys, we probably do stuff by ourselves versus we had someone who was very experienced in the lunchtime one, and he was saying that the feminist movement is kind of what we're doing now, but I guess the difference is naturally they all wanted to help out. So that's great advice, and for everyone, I guess, moving forward. So thank you. Yeah, it goes into the theme of let's all.
Very good. And with Kevin and Bailey, it sounds like you did exactly that, where you reached out to Kev and got him involved because you knew he was someone who could help you. Is that one of your key learnings as well?
Yeah, so it's probably even just through my own experience of going through the mental health problems, that sort of thing. The difference from when I used to deal with things myself or try and handle things myself to when I actually reached out and did get help and used the good support from my family and friends, there was a massive difference, and I think that's pretty spot on. But when I first asked Kev to help me out, I didn't underestimate how much of a help he actually would be. Kev, as well as his partner Sam, have been a massive help. So like Seb said as well, it is good to have other people around you and to use each other. Like we bounce off each other pretty well. And we have a couple other people that help us out. So with our seminars, we have a psychologist that comes to each of them as well. And she's also there to give us ideas and things like that. So we all work in well together. And I think that is a big part of anything really, that teamwork and being able to use each other's strengths and come up with different ideas together. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to encourage as well, is create an environment and create something where everyone feels like comfortable enough to talk to everyone. So
yeah, and like Bailey said, like it's sort of new to the whole trying to bring it in and make it collective for a lot of people. And I think the biggest thing that you probably seen from the start is when something happens, everyone reacts straight away then and there. And as we can see with things that are happening in today's society, the biggest thing was we wanted to get something, people jump on at that point. But it's the consistency that happens to continue to try and break down that barrier and stigmas. For example, when movement was before movement, Bailey is a young person in our community, very well respected, a captain of his high school when he was at school. He put a post out on his own social media and it got like 180 comments and it had 400 or something likes. And all these people got onto it. The minute it came around to movement starting, it was a hype then, but it may have been the hype there. And it was just trying to show that people do care, but it's sometimes it can be that phase. So I guess one of the barriers is that consistent effort to continue to go. But sometimes if it's, I hate to say it like this, sometimes it can be the flavour of the month for certain people, and they'll jump on, but they don't realise the consistency that you've got, what happens behind the scenes. And I guess I've been on this journey myself for a little bit, but within my own health role. Like I'm a Aboriginal Health Education Officer, and I tackle things from sexual health, drug and alcohol, to all these different things with my government job. But due to the number of suicides that we've had with young people in our area that may have not been in programs that we run, our director at the time had turned around and said, well, would you like to be a youth mental health first aid instructor? And then from that, and that was just some consistent talk about what needs to be done. So I think And Bailey will probably speak, there was a lot of people that want to jump on at the time, but, it's good you get that help, but you just make sure that their intentions are, it's about the bigger cause, it's not about the individual. And I guess everyone is from a different sort of walk of life, and you'll see that some people will jump on with something, but it's hard and challenging because sometimes the behind the scenes of what they're actually trying to get out of it. And I guess that's probably one of the most challenging things that I see with certain things, and wouldn't just jump up to go and help or do something. And one thing, good to do your research first. But then, I got a 20-year-old young male who's very keen and very adamant to get something. So it's like, he wants to go at it. So at the start, it was that was our challenge, I think, at the start, but he started to see how things sort of take time and you get results. And the more you go at it, the better the results are at the end, and it doesn't become a phase. So I think when we talk about it, I think it's that getting the help, getting the right support, but just making sure that it's the long run. There's probably people that have been here that have been doing it for decades, that you'd see things are gradually changing, but it doesn't change overnight. So you need to make sure that it continues for that jeopardy.
I think a big point as well, Kev just touched on, is the consistency. And that was sort of one of the things when I came up with the idea, and what I learned from getting my own sort of help and seeing psychologists and stuff. It has to be regular. It's like the same sort of concept. If you only go to the gym once every month, it's like you're not going to get results. So you need to be, it's mental health, you need to be working on it constantly and getting those tools and things like that. And I think in some ways, COVID has been, has helped us a little bit in the sense that people have been able to see more what we're about and what we sort of do through our videos on social media, as opposed to the seminars are going well, but there's only so much you can sort of take out of seeing a photo of me or Kev standing up there speaking, or Dan Price presenting, as opposed to seeing us actually giving content out and having a laugh and making it relatable for people. So yeah, I think consistency is a massive point there.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a really good point. Now, just before I throw to Matt to ask about his learnings, just a heads up, after Matt, I was going to open it up, as a bit of the open forum today, to see if anyone else wanted to share some of their key learnings through their journey. So maybe raise your hand as per the Zoom feature, or pop a little message in if you want to have if you want to share something after Matt. But all right, Matt, what are your key learnings through your project?
Yeah, I guess like Sam, it's hard to kind of pinpoint. I'm a chippy by trade and from West Australia originally. And when I was a carpenter, I left school when I was 15, and I found pretty quickly that the blokes on site had a really hard time talking about their emotions and what was going on at home or whatnot. And I was always sort of someone that was pretty in touch with my emotions from a young fella. I was quite an emotional kid, and I don't know, I felt I could talk about it. I was really quite comfortable talking about my feelings and emotions. And anyway, I must have been putting that, the castle reference out, putting the vibes out there again and attracting that crowd. So I found that I was always having conversations, whether it was after toolbox meetings or at Smoko, with men about, issues with their wife or their kids, or they weren't happy in their work, etc. But then I moved to Queensland 10 years ago to kind of chase the footy dream. And I came over here and I essentially put on a mask where I thought I had to be a tough footy player. And I was kind of walking around site like, kind of, I guess, with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. And I went from being somebody that was attracting people to have these conversations around mental health to really quickly finding myself sitting on my own at Smoko and kind of going in and between jobs and whatnot. And it wasn't until I kind of took my metaphorical mask off and just went back to, the Matt Boyce I always was, and I was skipping down the hallways singing Whitney Houston or whatever and just enjoying life, that suddenly at Smoko, like I was having conversation with blokes again around their wives, their mental health, and etc. And then when Justo passed away 5 years ago, I was actually working on one of his family construction sites when he passed away. He went on a surf trip and unfortunately never came back from that. And it just rocked me to my core. And I found my biggest learning is we've set up a charity and an organization, but I've kind of fumbled my way through trying to figure out how to best serve, and in particular best serve men off the back of that. And like I've got hours and hours of probably thousands of blokes I've worked with, but the thing I found works the best, and it's a learning that I guess I wanted to share today because it's kind of more of a takeaway than a story, is I turn things into scoreboards, because men in general, we're quite competitive, whether that's with ourselves or with others. And we like to gamify whatever it is we're doing, whether it's how many schooners you can scull or how many conversations around mental health you can have, you know. So I get a little bit of a scoreboard going with myself, and it's the home team and the away team. The home team obviously being me, and the away team being outside, life. And I try to put as many points on the home team scoreboard as possible, because throughout any 24-hour period, you're going to have losses, you're going to have negatives. And if you can build up yourself a bit of a repertoire of, home runs for the home team, then when you do get these negatives and they chop away at you, you don't go into the negative side, you just go down from wherever you started. So things like morning routines or movement, or, leaning into Dylan's 5 pillars, like leaning into those 5 things every morning before you start, you can really get some runs on your scoreboard before you even leave your house. And then, when something does go wrong, someone cuts you off in traffic on the way to site, or, you have a fight with one of your employees, you don't start going backwards. You just go from 5 to 4 and to 3. And then, you might get a good coffee at Smoke and you're back up to 4. So that's probably my biggest learning. And I guess I wanted to share that because it's more of a takeaway that we can all implement. I've got thousands of lessons I've learned from having many businesses over the years and charities and whatnot. And that's more of a takeaway one for you, Matt.
No, that's great. And I totally agree. We've actually, 100 Words, been spruiking a tagline and a method of communication around how's your day out of 10, and making people give you a score. And as you say, if you start off with a good morning routine, you start out an 8 and you get a knock, you're more likely to be able to cope with going down to a 6 than if you start out with a 4 and go down. So yeah. I actually find that's a really good tool to communicate as well. And as you said, it's simple for blokes to be able to sort of use that scoring system. Now, we did open it up, and Greg, are you, I'm sure in your role as president and your various other hats, you've got some pearls of wisdom you can share with us?
Yeah, look, this session's been great for me. It's amazing. Big hello to Sam Parker, who I think it was not last year, the year before. I met Sam when he came up here on a Sunday to Newcastle to call men together for a meeting. And I thought, Sunday, Newcastle? 60 men were there. It was a great afternoon. And he's launched that project in Newcastle. And I said then, I got a bit touched by it, that Sam and that space represented the future of men's health in this country. I've been doing it for 35 years. A lot of the older men in the session we had yesterday, we've been around a long time and we know a fair bit. But what we also know is we need young men to continue the work we've been doing. And all of you in this room at the moment, I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing. It's great work. It's really made me feel good about our future. And the people of men of my age, we haven't been wasted because you guys are all taking over, and it's really good. I'm just blown out by this whole event that we're running, and today's been fantastic. And I'll probably be a mess by the end of June, I would say, from listening to all these people who've been doing this amazing work. And I just wanted to thank you all. You're doing magical work, and you're so creative. Really, the projects we've been talking about all day today, they've been incredibly creative and successful. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. And I think I can speak for a lot of the newer blokes in the sector that, yeah, there's still a lot of work left to do for you. For you guys who've been around, there's a lot of learnings that we can take as well. So don't leave us just yet. Now, Sean wanted to say something as well from the Modern Bloke.
Oh yeah, hey, yeah, cheers as well. And yeah, same sentiments I think from everyone for Greg for what's happening. And I mean, I've been relatively new into this kind of community as well, and I've spoken to a fair few people that are even on this call, and you know, saw Sam at Momentum and that. And I guess one of the learnings from today, from all of the ones that we've done, is just that kind of connection part and support. And that I think the next step is really that collaboration that we've all got going on, because I think, yeah, everyone's doing amazing stuff. And yeah, just the support that everyone's got. I know Kev's already added me on Instagram. Good work, mate. But yeah, and that was just one of my findings through. I've spent the last year just absorbing and trying to learn as much from everyone from what they're doing, and that's kind of where I see the next thing going on board is more of these talks and just really learning from each other and sharing probably a lot, so that we're not reinventing the wheel and we're not, we're not trying to do everything. I think Tom from Dad's group before said it as well, where he was doing this activity, others were doing that activity, and just kind of collaborating and almost delegating to other people, like Sam spoke about, rather than trying to do everything. So it's been a really good couple of hours and couple of speakers.
Great, thanks, Sean. And I think that's a nice segue as well, because the next question that I had for the guests, and also we'll open it up to everyone at the end as well, is what have you learnt today? And I suppose even this week, if you've been in sessions in other days and not this today, but keen to what are the key takeaways? I always find with these things, it's easy to get just overwhelmed with information. And so if you had to write, 3 tips or 3 things that you're actually going to take away and do after today, from all the time you spent, learning and listening from all these different opinions, what are the key takeaways? So I might start with Matt, if that's all right.
Lock and load. So I've kind of been in and out, but I just listened to the back end of that session then, and I was listening into the collaboration space. And obviously, we're, as a charity called Human Connection, the name itself can kind of lend itself to, we get quite a few people wanting to reach out, and it's hard to sort of navigate. But tapping into what Sammy Parker was saying is where, and me in particular, as much as I tell people to ask for help as a business or a charity owner, I'm probably the last person to do it. So that's been a really good learning for me. And I kind of need that reminder quite often to just go, I should probably reach out for help, because I've got the exact same story as Sam. I put a post up around getting some volunteers. Probably would have only been a couple of months ago now. And we've ended up with a child psychologist because we're building a child's program. We've ended up with a social media manager, a copywriter, and we've ended up with someone who's volunteered their time to sort of help us run some of our more summit-like events. So for me, it's been connecting with other men doing work in this space, whether it be, going down and doing some work with the Maruba movement or jumping into Sammy's sessions up on Grab Life by the Balls. We can quite often see the big guys get all the funding, and we all know who the big guys are in this space. They get all the funding. So it's nice to kind of be knocking in the woods with everyone else doing the work. So I think, it is a real good time. And this event that's been put on, obviously Glenn's done a lot of work around this. It's kind of shining the light on other blokes doing space, so we can connect with them and move through that. So probably my biggest learning is start reaching out. I've chatted to Sean a little bit on Instagram, and definitely obviously know Sam quite well. So try to ramp that up a little bit, I think, is the best thing, so we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, that's great, and I'm sure Glenn would love to hear some of these tips as well, and we'll try and feed these back into him for, I'm sure he's planning the next event already. So, it'd be good to continue with these tips. So, Dylan, do you want to go next? What are your top takeaways from today?
Sorry, I was muted. I was going to mention the collaboration piece too, but I will steer in a different direction and say that the connection to purpose, I think it's great to hear everyone's own stories and everyone's reason for how they got in the space and everyone's reason for why they took up the work, and just to remember that connection to that purpose of why we're actually here is these stories we've got, and also the impact that we want to have. That's definitely my big takeaway, is that keep reminding myself why I'm doing it. Keep remember, that this is needed, because I think it was Kevin and Bailey that mentioned the consistency piece. it can be tough running a business. Like, it's not easy, and it can be really difficult in this space as well. And so that connection to purpose just helps to really realign you on that mission to keep going. So that'd be my key takeaway for sure.
Great, thanks, Dylan. I might throw to Greg quickly. You had a question, Greg?
No, I'm fine. I've said what I wanted to say. That's all right. Thanks.
Okay, sorry. No worries, no worries. And yeah, just for everyone else, yeah, I am keen to keep this open, and in a few minutes I'll throw to everyone. So yeah, if there's anything else you want to share out today, again, I'm sure Glenn and Greg and everyone and the whole room would be keen to learn about what you're taking away from this day as well. So Sam, what are your key ones for today? I know you've been around in a couple of the sessions.
So I think it's really inspiring, these events, even though it's online, like how awesome this would have been in person, but that's okay. That shit happens. How inspiring it is just to hang out with like-minded groups of people, or, if we put it all together, all wanting to change men's health for the better. And it's like, so it's awesome. I'm getting goosebumps every time, like with Greg talking before, and thanks for that, Greg. Big shout out to Australian Men's Health Forum, Greg, Glenn, Wynn's on there as well. Is Kim still on the team? Or everyone who organised it, it's been fantastic. Like, it's been awesome to get everyone that's doing this kind of stuff together. I think it's super inspiring. So I think we need our daily dose of inspiration. We need, sometimes we need our bucket topped up, and to be, in a virtual room all together, I think is like super cool. It really gets you the juices flowing, if you like. And I think the other thing is the power of us as individuals, our individual organisations, or whatever it may be, is that we've all got a different slant or perspective on life and what's happened to us and how we've gone about things. And I think that's really beneficial for all the other men that are out there as well. So although we're separate, we're all coming at this angle, coming at different angles, and that's beneficial as well. We don't, everything that we have as an individual is going to meet someone on their journey where they need to be met. And I think that's great to know who and what else is going on out here, so we can help each other as well, but to keep our individual flavour. I think that was the main one that I wanted to get across. And yeah, I think we do forget, like Maddie was saying as well, and other discussions I've had with Maddie as well, it's like we forget about ourselves. And I think don't forget to look after ourselves, or to ask other people that are here today. Like, I think we're all pretty friendly people. We all want to make some change. So I think just, reaching out and having a chat is, whether it's just a chin wag or whether there's some questions that you want answered, I think just go for it.
Great, very good. And just the fact that we've actually got 34 blokes on the line this afternoon, just spending their Saturday afternoons talking about men's health, I think is inspiring enough. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Now, Kevin and Bailey, what are your key takeaways from today?
I think first I just want to thank Glenn for opening my eyes to something like this. The first time I got onto one of these Zooms, there was 75 people in it, very like-minded, and just like was mentioned, like Sean mentioned, just by clicking on social media now, I can now interact with Sean and see how he's going. So I think, thank you, Glenn, for that opportunity to expose me to someone else. Like I said, I've been doing it for a while myself. And like Sam said, it's about trying to stay grounded and to look after myself. And when I look at culture and law, myself with my Aboriginal culture, we look about connecting back to land. And so when it gets really full on with work, I go bush and I try and to stay there for a couple of days if I can when I go camping. But here is a great way for me to stay grounded, to see what everyone else is doing across Australia. I think I've found something for myself to be able to connect with other people, like-minded people that are doing great things for themselves and their communities and whatever they're working on. And the bigger picture is obviously helping mental health. And I think, thank you, Glenn, because this is something that for me, I can feel to help movement, to help me doing the ambassador stuff that I do, to help me within my mental health first aid instructor role. This here, listening to other people around the country, is going to be a platform that I will be able to use myself. So I said thanks to Glenn, but thank you all to all you strong people that are on the end of this, because everyone's got a story, and I'm going to be able to learn from each and every one of you, and it's going to be something I can take back as Kevin Heath and help the next person that might reach out. So that's what I've taken. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a bit overwhelming for me personally, being invited to this. Like, from 6 or 9 months ago when I first put the concept together to already being a part of something like this, seeing people that have been in the industry for a long time and so many great ideas that we can all bounce off each other. I think it's really good. We've all obviously, like Matt said, we're not one of the big organisations, any of us, so to speak, but it's we're from the ground up sort of thing, and working together and bouncing off each other and getting new ideas is really good. Whilst we all have our own little teams that we work with day to day or week to week on our projects, it's good to be able to all link up and share what's going on, so we're all on the same page. So yeah, like Kev said, I'm really glad that we got invited today, and thank you, Glenn, and thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, guys. And look, it seems like there's a bit of a consistent theme, going through even these last sort of 10 minutes in discussion. But I assume throughout the whole forum around that connection and collaboration and learning from each other and not reinventing the wheel. So I'd like to pose a question, and anyone's sort of happy to put your hand up and answer this one around. How are we going to do that? I always find that's the biggest challenge, is around it's easy to say, but it's hard to to do that and implement that in our planning moving forward, and in our next time we're making a decision. So I'm sure Glenn's got some ideas, and he looks like he's got his hand up there as well. So do you want me to throw to you, Glenn?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I can't put my hand up.
Of course.
Permission to speak, please. Yeah, I don't want to give a solution. I want to reflect on my own personal experience, but link it to what we can do going forward. So my own personal experience of the and thanks for the acknowledgements. I really value that, and I think you guys were referring to last Tuesday's event, the ministerial roundtable in New South Wales, where we actually, we got a bunch of people together in a room with the Minister for Mental Health to focus on male suicide, and you guys made a great contribution to that. So thank you for being there. I mentioned this phrase, this sort of saying has popped up a couple of times in my head today. Which is, and I mentioned it earlier, which is the one about, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And I'm reflecting on that, and I'm thinking, because I do really like to do things on my own. I'm at my worst, and sometimes my best. I'm a big fat know-it-all, do-it-all, right? And I can do it all myself. I don't need anyone else. I'll just make it happen tomorrow. But that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of, I can only do things which within my own capacity. I piss off other people. I don't get close to the big ideas I have because I try and do it all on myself. So I'm in a constant process of having to learn how to collaborate. And I think part of that is I'm coming to learn. I think part of that is letting go of the destination. And so that whole thing of like, if you want to go far, go together. My first thought is, right, well, I know where far is. It's an exact goal I want to get to. And so if I want to get there, I'll have to get more people involved. But actually, the moment you step into really doing something together, you have to be prepared to let go of the destination. I think you have to be prepared to get lost. So, it's like, I'd also add on to that. If you want to go far, go together. And if you want to go together, be prepared to get lost. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I love Australia, but the thing I miss about England is me and Jackie, my partner, every weekend, we'd always go for, all year round, whatever the weather, we'd always go for a country walk somewhere in where we lived in Sussex. And there used to be a guy had a guidebook, Ben Perkins. It was like, go walking with Ben Perkins. His instructions were so bad, we always got lost, and we used to call it the Get Lost with Ben Perkins guide. So, but we used to love it because we used to come across unexpected places. So I think there's a lesson there that I'm beginning to learn in collaboration, that if you want to, you've got to prepare to let go of the destination and see what unfolds a little bit, right? And that's can be really challenging if you're a control freak. And the other thing that I'm trying to learn to balance between, and I guess is it a bit of balancing yin and yang? I'm not sure. It's I'm good when I get in there and get things done, and I know that I'm good. Get in there, get it done. That's served me a lot through my life. But I'm not as good at getting out of the way, and so and sometimes things just don't happen if someone doesn't get in there. And and I'm pretty much every single person we've had to speak here today, plus many people in the room, are the kind of people who just get in there and get it done. Yet at some point we have to step back and get out of the way. I don't think it's coincidence that of the 6 days this week, this is the day when I've had most opportunity to get out of the way. And a lot of it has been behind the scenes. It's been people like Sean from The Modern Bloke and Chris from Right Mate doing stuff behind the scenes that you haven't seen, stuff that I would normally be doing, but also like Matt stepping up and just taking this session. And that speaks to this group of people that we've kind of gathered today, that there's actually, if we bring this group together, then there's so many leaders in this group that it's easy to get out of the way. And so something about it's easier to get out of the way if you surround yourself by great people. So what I'm learning is to find great people to be around. And I love all the communities we've brought together this week, the policy people, the big names in suicide prevention, the older blokes and the rural blokes. But this group, I don't like to have favourites, and I shouldn't say this if it's been recorded, but I love you more because it's vibrant and it's emergent and it's collaborative, and there's ownership and leadership and potential and growth and all the rest of it here, and it excites me no end. I'm not ready to retire. I've only just turned 50, but I am ready to keep getting in there, but also keep getting out of the way. And I hope we get many more opportunities to just get together and get lost. That's me.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think Jeff, are you happy to share? So Jeff put a couple of things in the message box, but I think he would do it more justice than I. Do you want to share that with us, Jeff?
What the items I just put in there that I learned from Uncle Glenn?
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate to spend some time in Maryborough last year, and to Kevin Gulangurjali. And I just learned from, one of the first things I did when I got up there was just to introduce myself to the local elders and pay my respects. I identify as being Aboriginal. I don't know who my mob is. It's possibly Western New South Wales, the Kamilaroi, or somewhere down near New South Wales. But I guess I just wanted to honour Kevin by just that wonderful wisdom that's in our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, and just those items. What's good for the land or our culture comes first. And I guess that's what we've been saying this week about men. What's good for the brothers comes first. And paradoxically, when we put our brothers first, we just seem to benefit and grow so much. And if you've got plenty, you must share. Well, I guess each of us here has learned a lot of wisdom. I mean, I just get blessed by sharing other wisdom. And I just have a very small group that I look after, just incidental. but I've just taken delight in doing the small work that presents it my way. And I guess after 69 years and 8 months, I've just learned to take delight in empowering other people. And when I do that, I'm a better bloke. And when I authorise other guys, I'm a better bloke. So my delight these days is just being an elder and a mentor. So for any of the young men who've been here today, if you want a weird grey bearded bloke who's a storyteller, does contemplative bushwalking, then brothers, I'd be happy to journey with you for as long as you need it, or if it's just one conversation. So yeah, this week I've been interrupted by talking to guys who've been suicide, their addictions, with their problems with porn and their issues with marriage. So I'm not an expert, but as I said to Greg, I've tuned in all this week because if I'm going to be there for men, my responsibility to them is to be as well equipped as I possibly can. So Glenn, fantastic, mate. Look forward to the next time we all gather together. But yeah, I guess that's just what I'd like to say to any of the younger men coming through. If you want an older bloke to talk to, whether as a mentor or just someone to talk to, give me a call.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. And there has been that whole theme of goodwill throughout this whole. So that's one of the things that I've noticed, and one of my key takeaways from today is just how much goodwill and willingness to help there is, both from the old blokes. So I hope you don't mind me categorising here, and from the sort of the ones from newer charities like ours that are starting out, that are willing to help, willing to get their hands dirty, and willing to learn as well. So yeah, that's some really good points there.
I guess I'll just say to, so can I just say to the young men, yeah, I mean, I started off when I was 21, doing a whole lot of stuff. I probably had more ego and testosterone than wisdom. But yeah, look, don't be afraid to get out there and give it a go. And yeah, just make sure you've got a mate by your side. I think what I said to guys earlier today, have 3 men in your life: a mentor, your mate, and someone you're looking after. But yeah, look, don't be afraid to give it a go, give it a crack, and yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Now, look, we might also, I'm keen to go back to each of the sort of presenters in the room as well, just to get sort of a key message, key takeaway, and as we touched on before, a call to action to make sure that some of the great discussion and the great sort of goodwill that came out of this can go into action and contribute back both to our charities, to the sector, and obviously the people we're trying to help. So, and also, yes, I will save some time at the end to open that up to everyone as well. Just before I do that, while over this next, however long, half an hour, make sure you fill out the survey. So I know these sort of evaluations, you know, aren't always fun, but they're important, and I'm sure Glenn and the team would really appreciate that, just to help with their planning for the next one. So there's a link in the message box for that. So can I throw to speaking of young blokes, can I throw to Bailey and Kev just to talk about, so what are your final takeaways and your call to action? So what are some of the things that you're going to do off the back of this week and this day and this session? And also, yeah, what's your sort of key message?
We're already here for sort of the last session, but we're involved in last week's meeting that Glenn organised with the minister as well. But like I said before, I think the biggest thing is that we are having these meetings and everyone is coming together. So it's important to be able to take away what you've learned from other people. And there's been some great points that we've heard in this meeting alone. And different ideas as well. Like me and Kev have got our own ideas and we work together well, sort of day to day or week to week. But being able to incorporate some other things, like for example, Matt's scoreboard approach and just different things like that to help you and just give you more ideas, so you've got more tools to work with. And I think just sort of staying connected through the socials now. Everyone's on social media, so we've all got the opportunity to see what everyone's doing, keep up to date with each other, and pass around information and ideas through that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me going forward, being able to learn off other people that are on not the same journey, but a similar journey and trying to do similar things to what we're doing.
And yeah, I think I just sort of back up what Bailey's saying. I think the staying connected is probably the biggest thing. I think had COVID not hit, I don't know whether I would have put the time aside to be able to do Zooms or whether it was even used as much as it's used right now. I'm one of the people that were very lucky to still continue work during the pandemic. I'm actually working at the public health unit on the contact tracing team. So even working on that team, we have to meet, our team meetings are via Skype for business. So that kind of stuff, when the person is literally right next to me in the next room, I think it sort of brought me back to realise that you've got to slow down, you've got to take things in, you've got to look after yourself. And the key thing is, while I'm doing that for myself, I need to be able to try and do it for our community. And I think the biggest thing is about making sure that we're being able to stay connected. But what we're doing right now, speaking to Jeff, who has a story himself, can't identify where he's from, he identifies, but that in itself is something that is so powerful. I've just sent him my email address and I want to get to know more, and just from that, it's connecting people, and it's being able to empower people to, when I say empower myself to use this platform, even when we go back to whatever we call normal, but to continue using this and continue, this road that I would never have walked on had this pandemic not hit. So I think that's my biggest thing, is about that connection, staying connected, and using something that, I probably would never have used. It probably, to be honest with you, would have been a bit, we don't know whether you call it arrogant, but would never have thought of this platform or even given it the time of day. So I think that's the biggest thing that I can sort of say I would do, and I guess that's what we're now doing through Maroubra Movement. I don't know how we're going to go when we go back to doing seminars, whether we're going to be even that engaging, but yeah, I think that's my biggest take about staying connected, using this and moving forward, I guess, not forgetting about it and continuing this one.
Yeah, that's great, and I really like the point around, and this applies to you a little bit, Bailey, around a lot of the people are saying, yes, we need to learn from the older blokes and people who have been in the sector a long time, which I 100% agree. But I think there's also something we can all learn from new things. So, we've all changed the way we work via the pandemic. So as you said, Kev, the way we're doing things on video, but there's some great work that you guys are doing. How old are you, Bailey? 20,
Yeah.
Young blokes, inspiring, and new movements that we can all learn from as well. So yeah, I really like Jeff's point around you need a mentor, plus you need a sort of a mate next to you and someone behind you. And I think, that there will be people that want to follow what the Maroubra movement is doing. So yeah, I think partly see yourself as a mentor as well to the sector, because you're doing some great work out there.
Once the pandemic finishes, guys, and we're sort of on the road to recovery, we've got a beautiful beach called Maroubra Beach. If you're ever in Sydney, give us a shout. Come down for a swim.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm in cold Melbourne right now, so that's very attractive. All right, now let's throw to Dylan. I think he's in cold Melbourne too. Dylan, what are your final sort of takeaway messages and call to actions for you?
I am. It is absolutely miserable in Melbourne, as you know. Off the back of what Jeff said and Kevin and Bailey, that one the connection piece, but also reaching out when you do need help, and not seeing the people on this call as competitors, but other people working in the space, all towards a common good or towards a common goal. And if you need help and you resonate with anyone's messaging, shoot them a message, because I'm sure they're super eager to give back and super eager to help out. and even looking for those people that are like, you know, looking for their guidance and really keen to. I know I'm definitely, so if anyone, you know, is following along with the journey and loves what we're doing, like flick us a text if you need help or anything like that. It's so great to see so many people working in this space, because at the end of the day, we are all working towards that common goal, just in different forms and through different avenues. I think the cliche of the saying is, you know, we're all on the same mountain and there's many paths up that mountain, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to get to that same place of, you know, men's better well-being or mental well-being.
Great. No, thanks, Dylan. Really appreciate that. So actually, so your three, what are the couple of things that you're going to do, you know, from your action, out of these couple of days?
Still me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought I'd put
No.
the spotlight on just for a second.
Yeah, of course. What am I going to do? Yeah. So I think it's kind of given me a little, like little fire under my ass again, kind of listening to all these really inspiring men talk about, as I said, their purpose, their passion, what they're doing, the different ways they're going about it, how they've handled, you know, the obstacles that we're all now facing with COVID. I think it's really like going, boom, cool. This is fucking awesome. Like, this is great. This is where I want to be, and this is where all these other men want to be. And that action piece is really like getting stuck back in to what can I do more? How can I look after myself better to then better serve my community? So, you know, we do weekly calls. We've just launched a free journal on our website, that anyone can download. And you know, yeah, as I said, we do weekly calls in our private Facebook group. So if you want to be added to that, flick me a message. Yeah, it's just what can we, you know, that little fire under the arse that I probably needed after being in isolation for 3 months or, you know, in COVID for 3 months. It's like, cool, there's still people doing the work outside, and there's still men that are willing to show up day to day. And, you know, as I can't remember who said it, but, you know, the conversation isn't over yet, or there's still work to be done.
Yeah, always. All right, Sam, are you happy to share your sort of final takeaway messages and call to action?
Grab life by the balls. Let's go. Had to get it in there somehow. No, well,
perfect. Yeah.
We had a we had a professional who was seeing one of the other chiropractors in the practice, has already talked about the suicides are happening after all this stuff, and all those situational distresses that Australian Men's Health Forum are put together in all their documents. They're all going to come out. There's a shitstorm coming. I'm glad, Dylan, you dropped the F-bomb, so I feel a bit more comfortable swearing now, mate. But there's a shitstorm coming, and we all need to get amongst it. We need to grab it by the balls, and we need to help each other out, but we also need to be ready for that and see if we can make some positive change, because I feel like there's a load of crap coming, and we need to get amongst it. So my call to action would be, if you're someone that's just joined and just checking things out here, there's great organisations that have been presenting throughout this whole time. Get amongst it, reach out to us. We're all human. We're all great people, I'd like to think. You know, if you want to help out in some way, or if you need assistance in setting up your own thing, please shout out. I think I don't know about the Australian Men's Health Forum guys on the call, but is there any way we can all get together and iron out some kinks of like how we can train each other to access funding and all those sorts of things, and come together in different ways like that? So looking at how we can fund our individual projects, or how we can go about that, or who we can lean on. Like I've got some good, the local members of Parliament here are quite good mates of Grab Life by the Balls, and could be willing to have conversations. But yeah, let's stick it to them before we have to get stuck with carrying the burden of what could come.
No, very, very good. I agree. And look, one of the other things that's come up and is probably one of my learnings through this session if you're happy for me to share, is that there are lots of good models already out there. We don't all need to set up our own charities or our own, incorporated associations to actually do this work. There's already, the man walks are already there. Anyone can sort of set up a man walk in their area, or men's sheds, or there's lots of other formats that lots of people on this call. So I think that's the other consideration to go. Definitely look what's there first before you go off and put a whole heap of effort into the admin of setting up an association and a charity when there's some really good stuff already out there. Now, Matt Boyce, are you happy to share sort of the final sort of takeaway messages before I'll open it up to the whole crew as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to go off the back of Sammy, How Good's Living is just really reminding people, the whole concept behind why we started How Good's Living is just reminding people to really hone in on that. And it's, it can be such a throwaway line, but the reality is like, we're so lucky, first of all, to have it. So what we do with a lot of our work is we're trying to be really proactive. I agree there's a massive shitstorm coming, and I'm based in Brisbane. So we're seeing a lot of it firsthand. And the conversation I had with someone the other day is, the likelihood of you actually seeing someone take their own life prior COVID, was relatively low. Obviously, you're going to be touched by it. You might know the person. It might even be a loved one. But the chance of you seeing it with your own two eyes is, relatively low. We're predicting some really serious increases in suicide here. So a lot of people are going to be faced with that and actually see the process. And I don't know if all the blokes online have seen a dead body. It can do a lot of scarring. So we're being really proactive in preparing people for that at the same time. And it's quite a hard thing. And we're leaning on a lot of emergency services right now to get their help on how to actually do that, because death is something that no one's ever really prepared for. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of it off the back of COVID. We think the economy problems are bad off COVID. I think we can all guarantee and agree on the fact that the mental health problems that come off the back of COVID are going to be much, much worse. Yet every stimulus package we're seeing or push from the government is around mental health, not around mental health, sorry, is around the economy. I'd like to see a real big push around mental health. And I think we're going to see that from this group. And Sammy made a good point of getting everyone together in a space. And I saw Glenn quickly wrote back on the chat box that, put something together like that, because access funding is, for us, we've had a charity for 5 years, and I think we've got 10 grand off the government the entire time. It's been really, really hard for us. We've had to lean on, I'm a chippy, and I took the nail bag off 5 years ago, and I'm back on the tools now to try to keep the lights on in the charity. So that's going to be a massive help for us. But I guess my biggest takeaway or biggest call to action for everyone on the call is just to really, I sound like a broken record, really focus on the scoreboard and push it on all your friends, because it's changed. In our charity and also in my consulting business, I've got the biggest change I've ever seen in men is that scoreboard. I can work with a guy for 10 weeks, but if I can just have a 5-minute chat to him and explain that scoreboard and push that into his life, it's made some massive impacts. And to go off the back of what all the blokes were saying, and definitely the women on the call as well, is that we all want to help. You simply just have to reach out and ask for it, whether it's asking for advice on the charity or asking for help in your mental health. Like, everyone's here to help. It's just time to make sure you put your hand up. It's just like when you're out in the surf, the hardest part's putting your hand up to get the clubbies to come grab you. We've just got to push that and make it a lot easier.
Yeah, totally agree, Matt. And totally also agree with your point around the women. One of the learnings I've had, and we're actually having this at our board level around trying to recruit women specifically, the amount of value they can add in this men's health sector. I think naturally we try to be a little blokey in some of these scenarios, but I think there's a lot of value. And we're in the process of recruiting a woman for our board to make sure that we've got a bit of diversity. So that's a critical role that they have to play in the sector as well.
I'll just quickly jump off the back of that. We've been really fortunate. So we've got 8 people in our charity now, and 6 of them are women. And as more women have come on board our charity, the engagement from men has skyrocketed. And I can't put it down to anything in particular, but it's Sonia, who's running our social media, there's something in her wording that's just made it so much easier for men to reach out from when I was writing it. So yeah, it's been super powerful.
Now, we've still got a few minutes, so does anyone else want to share some of their key learnings or final takeaway messages or call to actions? Just while you're doing that, so yeah, Glenn, do you want to have the final word and a bit of a plug for next week as well?
Yeah, look, I've noticed Ash has put his hand up though, so I mean, go ahead. With Ash hasn't spoken all day, I don't think, so I'd rather let him go first.
Go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, hi, men. How are you? Actually, you there? Yep. Right. I just took the headset out because it felt a little weird. Look, an acknowledgement to all the men have been on. I've been in the men's I suppose health and well-being space for probably coming on 25, 30 years. I've kind of over the last few weeks, I finished a degree in counselling last year and have been unable to get work. Wanting to work in men's health, being a volunteer for years, and have become quite despondent with it. Like I've kind of got to the point where I'd go back to my old trade. I'm part of, the only thing that's really keeping me connected, I'm part of what's called the Young Men's Project here in Perth, which reminds me, acknowledgement to the traditional owners here in Perth, the Woonjak people, Perth area, and very, very blessed and grateful to be sitting on their budja. Yeah, the Young Men's Project is kind of like a mentor role for me. There's a bunch of young men in there who are wanting to reduce male suicide, basically. So as an organisation, we run events where they get young men together and they support them to come up with ideas. And then one of those ideas is voted by all the men in the room, and then we try and manifest that. So one of the ones that is currently COVID put a bit of a hold on it is what they call mate date. So doing yourself a favour, if you're feeling good, then check in with a mate. If you're not feeling good, check in with a mate, have a mate date, look after each other, that kind of thing. So they're in the way of doing that. But over the last few weeks, we've tried to get momentum up. And what's interesting is that they're asking me, what's around. So they decided that they would do a bunch of research on what was already existing. So I think someone said, you don't, I think it might have been you, Matt, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. What's out there already, right? Rather than throw a whole lot of energy, what's happening in men's business and men's health. So I've actually sent them the link to this. I haven't seen any of them on and participating, but I'm hoping when the video comes out, I'll be able to kind of get them involved in this. So one of the biggest takeaways for me from for today, and I've only managed to do half a day, is that my energy's back up. Like I have more faith that men and women want to make the world a better place. I'm inspired that there's a bunch of young men here in Perth that I can now connect. There's so many of you men out there that I'll be connecting these guys with, because I've just, being part of the Young Men's Project, the young men on there have just inspired me. However, one of the things I would like to say, and I think I saw it in the chat there, so some of you, maybe the older men in the men's work would know some of the forefathers of men's work, like Robert Bly, Michael Mead. There's a lot of guys who have been doing it a long time. So I heard Michael Mead, I was listening to a podcast with him, and he said that the interviewer asked him what he thinks needs to happen, or something like that. And his response, he said, if I could change one thing, and I don't know how, I would make eldership an integral part of everything. Like, how do we do that? So through the research I've done with the Young Men's Project on the side, I see a lot of really fancy websites, and I see a lot of men doing a lot of work. But I don't know whether it's my imagination, but there seems to be often a very big space between the young men doing stuff and the older men around. And just on a caveat on that, I don't believe eldership comes just with age. Eldership for me comes from personal work, soul work. And being an example of someone who can be vulnerable, who has healthy relationships, who's willing to say, I'm having a shit day. So what I see in these conversations, what I've seen today, is that, like, for me, there's an opportunity to reach out. Not as for me, I'm actually want to reach out to a couple of you young men for some mentorship. For myself, not to, and I know that's a reciprocity thing. However, what I would like to see, and I missed the one yesterday on the, I think there was a bit of talk around eldership. But what I would add is that there's an incredible amount of passion and knowledge that I've seen today, and it reminds me that in Australia, there has been and continues to be an incredible resource of men's understanding, knowledge, vulnerability, all those things that are needed to make the world a safer place for women and for children and for other men. Yeah, I'm feeling really blessed. But also, the last thing I would say is that one of the things that has changed probably in the last 2 years is the incredible generosity of the Aboriginal people that have come into my life, and the connections that they've created. And there's a couple of things that have come out there. I don't know whether I'm not going to try and share it. There's an Aboriginal man who I haven't met, but I'm looking forward to meeting one day. His name's Tyson Younger Porter, and he talks about the 8 ways of learning. So if you ever have a chance to have a look at the 8 ways of learning from an Indigenous perspective, amazing. The thing I would say too, and Uncle Noel here has taught me this, and so reading Tyson's book, which is called Sand Talk, if you haven't read it, is that to stop. If there was one thing I'd say to all of the men, and you probably, some of you will know it, maybe some won't, is I've spent a lot of energy trying to connect. So if I look at it from an Indigenous perspective, or particularly from the Indigenous people I've been reading, we are never not connected. So if we stop spending our energy trying to connect and just acknowledging that we're connected, then suddenly the energy cooperating or working together becomes a lot easier, because we're not, it's almost like it's a marketing thing. Let's get connected, and I'm going to connect with the ground, I'm going to connect with this. It's great, but you're never not connected. So I think, I know that that's changed my life. So that's one thing I would leave you with, men. And the someone's posting something here. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't read it. But yeah, so I will be in touch with a few of you men. Amazing. I'm looking forward to putting the Young Men's Project in touch, particularly, with Sam, with Matt, with Dylan, those guys. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So thank you, men and women who I've noticed. Awesome. That's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash, and thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Ash. Look, really Yeah, really appreciate that, Ash. And I think that's the beauty of these forums. You get to hear from people like Ash, you know, and all of you today who are able to share. And the word connected, yeah, obviously that's the whole theme of today and the week. So look, thank you all for today. I'll throw to Glenn for the last word. Yeah, I hope to see some of you next week, actually. So thanks for having us today, Glenn. Really appreciate that. I'll throw to you for the last word.
Great job, Matt. Beautifully chaired and facilitated. Thanks to Sam, to Matt, to the Maroubra boys, to Dylan, Momentum Lifestyle, you rock, and to everyone who contributed to that, to all our speakers throughout the day, to the staff, including Sharon, Sharon and Kim, who've worked so hard on this, plus the volunteers, including Lynn, our international interns, and our board members who've contributed, such as Greg, and our awesome volunteers from the men's mental health movement today, which include Chris, Lytus, Sean Coffin, Matt Walton. I must also mention Francis Lee, who's not in the room now, but has been volunteering all week long. And last but not least, to all of you for being here and making it happen. I'm going to post a survey one last time. I'm just going to pick up on your point, Sam. I think there's potential real value in having a monthly men's health movement meetup. Not this long, for an hour and a half, networking event on Zoom. I think we should explore that, see where it takes us. Just create the space and allow those who show up to work out what they need to get from it, and get in there and get out of the way. That's that'll be my motto for doing that. But I'm really open for that. If 10 of you are up for it, then we'll do it. So that's it. Please keep coming back. It's been a great first week. What a great way to finish it. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope we see you next week or week 3 or week 4, and stay in touch. I'm going to enjoy, I don't know if you ever get a long weekend everywhere in the country, but a lot of the country gets a long weekend. We don't in Queensland, but I'm taking Monday off anyway because none of you buggers are going to be at work, so I don't see why I should.
Thanks, Glenn.
So I'll leave the mic open for a few minutes just for you to sort of say goodbye and log off, and then just quickly catch up with the volleys. Awesome. Thanks, guys. In a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you. Hey, Paul.
And yeah, Sean and Chris and all the volunteers, love your work. So thanks, guys.
Good to see you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks. Wonderful hearing everyone's input and just feeling the amount of wisdom and passion and experience around. Very encouraging. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Thank you all.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jeff. Lovely to see you all this week. You've been here most days.
Yeah, 5 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 days. Loved it. Well done, Glenn. Excellent. To all the people at the Health Forum. Excellent. Well done.
Hey, what a great gang of speakers, though, eh? What a great mob. All the stuff.
Like Ash, I'm just really energized and enthused.
Thanks, Tim Fisk. Thanks, Alan Raby. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, X, whoever X is. Thank you, X. Thanks, Susan Rowland. Thanks, Fabian. I'm going to start kicking you off now. If you want to say goodbye, make sure you do. I'm just going to start at the back of the alphabet. So X, if you want to say goodbye, say goodbye. In a moment, Fabian Houghton, I'm going to be kicking you out in the nicest possible way.
Hey, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you all.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
Fabian's gone. Jem, you're next. So you don't say, last chance to say goodbye. You're going. And after that, I'm coming to you, Peter. Thank you. You're coming to Peter. You're off. Okay. Alan Raby, thanks for all you're doing, my friend. And I'm going to kick you off. And you're gone. Stephen Gibson, lovely to see you here. And this is goodbye, my friend. Thanks for being here. Lynn's gone. Hey, you guys, you fucking rock.
That was a bloody awesome day.
Hey, how good was that?
A lot of info. That's awesome.
Fucking unreal. Sorry, I was just.
Must remember to save the chat.
My laptop is. You can see the amount of freaking sticky notes I've got on my laptop.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a landscape going of the
How was it for you guys?
You must be buggered, Glenn. You've had a big week. You deserve a weekend and a long weekend at least.
Thank you.
Well done.
I just feel this lightness off my shoulders. Actually, now it's over in the nicest possible way, because I really loved it. But yeah, it's hard holding focus even when. But today was the easiest day in many ways, because you guys just really stepped up in a really powerful way. You just sort of came in and took ownership of it in a really in a really inclusive, positive way. You were awesome. Thank you. Can't fault you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let us get involved.
It's easy when we support the mission, so that's good.
Yeah.
Today just blew my mind. Like, just there was no selfishness or ownership. Everything was done with huge respect. Everyone was just so open and willing to share ideas, insights, learnings, and the offers to just get out and help each other. That's what it's all about, right? It's well.
I was going to say hello to Gaynor. Gaynor, lovely to see you. And the party's over. So don't take it personally, Gaynor.
We can't get enough, Glenn. We just want to stay on 20. We need to turn this into a 24-hour exercise.
So Gaynor,
telethons, Jesus.
Gaynor,
that's right.
Yes, I hope to speak soon, but I'm gonna kick you off. That's all right, Gaynor. We'll see you another time. Just having a debrief with the team. See you soon, Gaynor. Thank you. That's it. Cool. Yeah, wasn't it? Well, I mean, I've wanted to do this particular sort of like group of organisations for a good 12 months now, and then actually doing it, and I was trying to do it at the physical conference in Melbourne, and it's hard because how can a lot of these guys afford to go and do a professional conference? It's just too much to ask. It's not fair. So having this has been brilliant, and then it also brought out a whole load of other organisations that I didn't know about 6 months ago, didn't know about 3 months ago, and then in the last week or so I found more. It's like, Jesus, there's definitely dozens. There's definitely.
Yeah. I think the monthly thing's got massive legs because it'll show the people committed, it'll show the people interested. But as you said, and was brought up in last one, that we're the smaller groups, not not big companies. So yeah, we don't have the corporates behind, the corporate spend to go to do bigger things. But I think for us to all do this on a Saturday, it's a long weekend here. Just shows that the commitment, and if we can keep doing these. As I said, I'm happy to work on like a skills gap that once a month, we even run where it's, okay, someone's going to talk about how to get incorporated. Someone's going to talk about charity. Someone's going to talk about, can be an hour, like, I'm, happy to do that and just really share the learnings. Cause yeah, it shows that people are engaged in this way of doing things.
Totally. Yeah. And one thing we got from the event last week that, Kevin and, Bailey were talking about, you can do things like breakout, you can do networking stuff, you can break people into pairs so they can get to have a quick one-to-one chat and do that kind of networking. And then you can put, if people go, well, I don't want to do a 30-minute training on governance or fundraising, you go, well, we'll give you 4 or 5 rooms to choose from, go into one of those instead. We can use it quite smart ways that you can get a lot done in an hour, it doesn't have to be a massive thing like this. It's like, create the space, get people in, and you're actually all, the people who are doing this kind of stuff are already sort of like being active and making stuff happen. So they're not going to turn up in a space and go, oh, okay, what are you going to do for me? They're going to go, what can we do? So
I think the benefit you hit nail on the head is with conferences, because I've gone to so many, you go from work and that, where you're there for 2 days and you've got, 7 sessions, but you go, I might only need 3. So, you can go, right, this month on, this Wednesday and this Wednesday night, we're going to run a session for this. And whoever's engaged can log on and learn. But if it's something that you already know, then you don't have to. You're not committing to 5 hours. So
yeah. So I always love the way I come out of these things, actually creating more work for myself. But there we go. So any last thoughts and reflections you need to sort of complete the day, Matt? First.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm like you. My mind's racing about all the things we should be opportunities and the connections and the collaborations and that guy's doing that. I want to learn about that, and that guy's doing that. So I'm obviously keen to engage through you guys, through the Health Forum, around how we do that, because I'm assuming, yeah, that is your role, and will play a key part in that as well. So keen to learn more about next steps. And connection, but yeah, I think the vibe was really positive and collaborative, as Chris said. I think there's a little bit because a lot of people are regional, so those guys are in Maroubra, those guys are in but that also creates an opportunity to say, okay, well, let's replicate what they're doing down in Melbourne or wherever, because of that, and they're not precious about that. They don't, That's why part of the reason, I'm sure, that they're willing to share. So
yeah, great.
Yep.
Chris?
Oh, bloody hell.
The last 7 hours in a 30-second, concise 30-second chat.
Purely from a selfish perspective, from a right mate perspective, I've had Jeremy from Holt reach out to me already going, let's talk about what we can do with you guys in Geelong, which is freaking brilliant. And Jack from Banksia Project. For us, I've got a committee of blokes that, normally it's Luke and I, my sort of business partner, that do most of the sort of the workshop facilitation and talking. We've got a committee of blokes that now that are keen to sort of figure out how to do it, but are nervous as batshit. So, we'll leverage off Jack, and, if we can get in via Zoom to sort of, give our guys some skills around, how to engage an audience, how to control a workshop and all that sort of stuff. Bloody amazing. And I think to Matt's point, let's just keep getting connected to these blokes. And if it is, learning bites once a month, like Sean was saying, freaking brilliant. Count us in. Wherever you need some help, mate, yell out. We are super keen to help out.
Easy. Sean, last thoughts?
Just the momentum, and I think that the opportunity for everyone to work together is what came out of today, where we're seeing that mentality around now collaboration, and I think even if it's just sharing of ideas, sharing of people on each other's groups online, and things like with Chris's walks, and then just having the opportunity in different groups to say, okay, have, maybe someone go to one of the walks and then talk about what they do. So I think instead of probably what everyone's had the issue from is everyone's trying to do everything. Whereas I think what I got out of it is, there's some groups where you just go, you specialize in that. The guy from Dad's group, we might then connect and go, okay, well, you've got all these walks that are going along through the Man Walk. Instead of the Man Walk trying to deal with fatherhood, let's just get Dad's group in, get to go, okay, we're going to have him in talking about this, someone about mental health, me maybe about culture and generation, and then rather than trying to do everything, I think there's a massive opportunity there.
Yep.
Yeah, both that combination of building national networks but then localized networks, but they feed each other, because often people showing up at a national level have actually got a sort of a around country network, but their Geelong mob might not be connected to the other mob that's in Geelong, and then we can start to join the dots, and build community at local level from a national perspective. I'm trying to wrap up, and I keep thinking, stop it.
You've earned a wine, Glenn, I think.
Yeah, I've got a wine when I get off here. About all the anyway. So my last thought is this: I've been in this game in different ways for 23 years, and I love it, and I do it because I'm passionate about it and I'm committed to it. And a lot of the time, it is like the curse of Sisyphus. It's the guy who was condemned every day to push the boulder up the hill, and in the morning it rolled back down again. He had to push it up the hill. A lot of the time, it is like pushing pushing a boulder up a hill, and I get a real sense with this particular part of our work, more than any other, that here is an opportunity together just to tip the boulder over the top of the hill and let it roll and get its own momentum.
Yep.
Really feel that. So yeah,
I think you're not pushing it up by yourself anymore.
No.
That's right. Yeah, and I think the top's just there, you know, and so that's how I feel. I feel very light, actually.
Good.
But that might be early signs of delirium or something. I don't know.
Exhaustion.
Well, it's a good first week at least, and yeah, obviously let us know if you need help with the next few weeks. So yeah, well done on getting through this week, seemingly very well, but by the vibes and the feedback that I heard anyway.
Yeah, it's all been good. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, enjoying a bit of free time now. So you guys too, thanks so much. Really lovely. So it's a great way, it's a great way of blokes getting to know each other by working together. And so I feel like, you were just faces and names, and now you've become we've got a connection and a bond now from having worked on this, and I hope it grows and deepens over time.
Definitely.
Great.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Enjoy your night, guys.
See you guys.
See you later. Bye.